Am I the a-hole for kicking out my girlfriend and her son after she invited her ex into our home? Plus update. Original post. Me, 35 male, and my girlfriend Sarah, also 35, have been together for 4 years. She has a son, Nathan, 9 male, with her ex Mark, 36 male. Sarah has full custody of Nathan, with her ex having scheduled visitations one weekend of every month. Sarah and Nathan moved in with me a little over a year and a half ago, and, in my perspective, it was a little rocky at first. I've always been pretty protective of my space, so making room for 2 other people was difficult for me. When Sarah moved in with me, we agreed that the visitations for Mark would be held in our apartment as long as I'm home. The main reason I wanted this is because I don't know Mark that well, and I don't want him wandering around our apartment without me there. When we proposed this idea to Mark, he was fine with it. Now moving on to the real issue. 3 weeks ago marked 4 months since Mark's last visit, so I asked Sarah when he was planning on visiting Nathan. My girlfriend replied by shrugging her shoulders and telling me she'd ask. She never followed up. A few days ago, I asked when Mark's next visit was, and Sarah said she'd tell me when she knew. Nathan was in the living room but had apparently overheard us and shouted something along the lines of, "Dad was here last weekend, remember?" Sarah's face immediately dropped, and when I asked what Nathan meant, she wouldn't give me a direct answer. Eventually, she ended up telling me that for the past 2 visits, Mark had been to our apartment when I was working. When I accused her of going back on our agreement, she kept telling me this was her home too, and she could invite whoever she wanted, and that it was fine because she was there and watching. I told her that was beside the point, and that she had violated my trust. It blew up into a huge argument and ended with me telling her to get out of my apartment. She packed up and left with Nathan. Last I heard, she was staying with her parents. I've gotten several messages from both Sarah and her parents, calling me an a-hole for kicking Sarah and Nathan out of their home over something so small. She's even been blasting me on Instagram and Facebook about how horrible I am to do this to her. It's got me thinking I might be the a-hole, but I'm not entirely sure yet. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add, I can see why it's important, but the court order was instituted because Mark has a criminal record. I'm not sure what it's for, as Sarah has never directly told me and I didn't want to push her to tell me. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You are tentatively the a-hole. This is not just your home. Or it wasn't just your home. It was their home too. Nathan has a right to see his dad, and Mark has a right to see his son, no matter how crappy he is. I have first-hand experience. If you have made a family home, you can't just demand things like it belongs to you. It sounds like everyone was trying to keep to your rules, then hid stuff from you because you're being an a-hole. I'm fully aware that it was our home, but it was solely mine before that. There was only one thing that I asked for when she moved in, and it was that I would be here while Mark was here. Not the a-hole. Not only did she break the only rule you had, for whatever reason, but she lied about it multiple times, and seems never to have intended to tell you until the kid revealed the truth. If she had an issue with a single boundary you've set, she should have talked to you and renegotiated it, but she didn't bother. And I'm sorry, but letting someone move in with you doesn't automatically make you and them 100% equal residents in a house you own, especially when it comes to conditions that were agreed on before the move. Not the a-hole. The fact that she's now trying to smear you publicly is a manipulative tactic usually reserved for a-holes trying to drum up support for their side, to manipulate the other person into giving in on an issue, or harm the other person as much as possible as punishment for not giving in on an issue. That alone shows what kind of person she is. You dodged a bullet. Not the a-hole. She lied to you multiple times. And when she got caught, her response was to try to emotionally manipulate you into accepting this blatant violation of your boundaries. Even if this was entirely above board and she didn't do anything with her ex, though she wouldn't have had to lie if it was, there's clearly no respect for you here. Now for the update. I know it's fairly early in the morning while I'm posting this, but I got off the phone with my ex and figured you all deserved an update. First off, I wanted to thank everyone for the feedback and comments on my post. I didn't think it would get that much attention, but here we are. There were a lot of different opinions on who was in the wrong, but after going over a ton of them, I realized I wasn't as non-holy as I thought. Now on to the update, as I'm sure that's what all of you came back for. It's not too exciting, so I'm sorry in advance. Firstly, on Monday, I had a locksmith come by in order to change the locks, which I got the go-ahead from my landlord, and I ordered a new door camera that should be coming in sometime next week. After that, I hadn't heard from my ex until Tuesday, when she called me from a number I didn't recognize, her mother's, to apologize. She started crying over the phone, begging me to take her back and saying she made a mistake, and how awful it was being back at her parents' house. She complained that everything was a mess and that there was a smell she hated. She even promised to never bring Mark over again as long as she could move back. I ended up telling her that she had lost my trust and that I wasn't going to move past this simply because she was having a difficult time at her parents' house. I told her this was her consequence for breaking the one thing I asked her to do when she moved in. When she realized I wasn't budging, it was like a switch flipped. She started screaming at me, using lots of colorful language I won't be repeating here. Among the list of swears, she told me I had no right to kick her out of her home, that I was criticizing her as a parent, that I was manipulative and ignorant, and that nobody would ever love me because not even she loved me. Before she hung up, she told me she'd get me evicted and take my apartment from me. I blocked the number after that. I ended up emailing my landlord to see if there was any way she could get me evicted. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in my post, but I've been pretty good friends with his son for a while. He ended up calling me and laughing about the whole situation, telling me that legally she has no ground to stand on since her name was never on the lease. According to him, she was simply a live-in guest until her name was added. Thank goodness it never was. Which brings us to earlier this morning, when my ex woke me up to call me, this time from her father's number, and repeated most of the things I listed above. Apparently, she had contacted my landlord and he had hung up on her. Thank you, David. By the end of it, I told her to stop contacting me and that we were over for good. I blocked her father's number as well. It's not the most exciting update, as I said earlier, but it's what happened. Some people in the comments suggested I talk to my landlord, which is what I ended up doing. So thank you to those people. I can't believe people criticized OP for having a hard boundary. Man doesn't want a criminal in his home, and that's supposed to be controlling? Give me a break. Not just any criminal, but one that is only allowed to see his kid via supervised and scheduled visits. I had my daughter's dad on supervised visitation for alcoholism, and it took so much proof just to keep him on supervision for a short period. Indiana, United States. From what I understand of the UK, it is just as hard getting permanently supervised visitation over there. Courts want children to have an unencumbered relationship with their parents. I wouldn't want Mark in my house without a man I trusted either. And it shows incredibly poor judgment on Sarah's part on at least 3 fronts: breaking OP's trust, trusting Mark, and thinking her kid would keep it a secret. I'm not surprised to learn she's actually pretty emotionally unstable as soon as she's told no. Good job standing your ground. Keep ignoring the lunatics defending women and shirking accountability, and defend your peace. 100% this. Reddit is not the best place to look for advice on this. There is a high number of women and white knights defending other gals in these subs, no matter what crappy thing they do. When the defense is impossible, like in this update after she lost it on you, they will claim your post is fake, just to diminish the girl's, your ex, in this case, horrible behavior. Good luck in your next adventure. I am sure there is a good woman waiting for you out there. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I get a divorce because my wife won't stop blaming me for my father and brother-in-law's deaths? A couple of years ago, I was out with my father-in-law and younger brother-in-law on a guy's night out when a freak accident happened. Someone lost control and crashed right into us. My brother-in-law died on the spot, while my father-in-law fought for a couple of days in the hospital before he too passed. I broke my arm and leg and almost died as well, but somehow I made it. This has destroyed my wife completely. The woman I knew and loved and married isn't here right now. She was a huge daddy's girl. She loved him, and they used to talk on the phone every single day. Every time he'd see or talk to me, he'd always tell me to take good care of his girl. She also loved her younger brother. He was 14 years younger than her, so he was like her first baby. Her mood changes every other day now. Sometimes she's her old caring self, and other times she can't even look at me. She screams and cusses at me all day long and blames me for everything. It's so hard for me because I love them too. I loved her dad more than my own absent father, and her brother was like a little brother to me too. I still see my father-in-law in that car next to me, with blood coming out of his mouth and cuts all over him, and I still see my dead brother in the back. Her blaming me for it all the time makes it a million times harder for me. She doesn't want to go to couples therapy or any sort of therapy, with or without me, but I've been going. With her blaming me, it's basically not doing anything to help me at all. I still love my wife to death, and I want to keep my promise to my late father-in-law to take care of his little girl, but I just can't do it anymore. It's too painful, and I believe it'd be better for her to not live with the person she blames for destroying her family. I think it'd be better for me too, and it might finally let me move on. Should I do it, or should I give her another chance? I don't want to put her through even more pain, but I think this would be helpful for both of us. Not the a-hole. We know she's hurting badly, but to blame you and refuse to go to counseling is completely unfair. Even without that, the way her moods are all over the place shows she needs it. Ultimatums are usually a bad idea, but not always. Have you considered telling her it's counseling or divorce? I haven't, but she refuses any help. You can frame it a few ways. I'd suggest something like, "You seem to hate me sometimes, and I seem to be a constant reminder of what happened. That's hard for me to be around, especially as I'm grieving them as well. If we can't go to counseling together, maybe we shouldn't be together." Resentment will grow on both sides. You need to work on you. You were injured and loved them too. It wasn't your fault. The other driver was at fault. Her blaming you is unfair. She's grieving, but it seems she'd rather you pass too. Leave, work on yourself and heal. Hopefully she can start to do the same. She did say multiple times she wished I died instead of them. I'm so very sorry you had to hear that. You lived, and that is a blessing. You can't stay with someone who wishes you dead. The marriage died that day too, for her. I know it did. I guess I just remember the woman she was, that I loved more than anything before all of this happened. It sounds like you know what you have to do. Find a lawyer, maybe set in motion a separation. That might give her the kick in the pants to get help. However, I don't know if there's a way back when she has said to you multiple times that she wished you had died instead of them. Where is her mom and other family in all of this? Anyone close to her that can get through to her? Do they know what she said to you? Her family don't blame me, and they've tried talking to her, but she isn't listening to anyone. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex-stepkid stay at my house? I'm 34 female and my ex-husband is 40 male. He has 2 daughters, 13 and 10. For some context, I've known them for 6 years and their mom is dead. My ex-husband and I are finishing up our divorce process, so we have our own custody arrangements. With our custody arrangement, we do every other week, but since our daughter is only 3, we let her go by whoever she asks for usually, as she's confused and doesn't really understand. Last Friday, he dropped my daughter off at my house and said he wanted to ask me a question. He told me that his daughters wanted to go to my house like my daughter does. I told him no, and that if they need something, they can call or text, and if it's really important, schedule a meeting. But other than that, no. He asked why, and I told him that as they have said I'm not their mom, I have a schedule that revolves around my daughter and not his kids, and that I'm not taking care of 3 kids alone every other week. I'm assuming he told his family and his daughter's family, and they have been calling and texting me and telling me I was cruel, and that just because me and their dad didn't work out doesn't mean I can't take care of them or be around them and stuff. I told them that I offered to do a day out a month with them, and they could have from 9 a.m. to maybe 6 p.m. on a weekend, and they hung up on me because I wouldn't let them stay the night. My daughter ended up coming back to me on Wednesday as she was sick and kept crying for me, so I went to pick her up. His daughters were there with their bags packed and begged to go with me until Sunday. I told them no, as I wasn't going to take them to school and make all those stops in the morning. They got upset and started crying, asking why I was being so mean to them, and that their families were right about me and stuff. I told them that they have told me many times I'm not their mother and a whole bunch of other mean and hurtful things, so I'm not about to make my life harder to make them happy. My mom thinks I'm right, and says that even if I did keep them, she wouldn't watch them, as they have been disrespectful to her multiple times. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It sounds like your ex-husband is just jealous that you get a week off from parenting every 2 weeks, so he's pushing for his daughters to stay at your place. This is what I suspected too. Dad wants to date again and needs some freedom from kids. Dad is already dating, and she is horrible, or the girls are getting moved from pillar to post so he can be with his ladies. These girls have just learned actions have consequences, and words spoken can't be taken back. Not the a-hole. If the two girls had accepted you as their mom, you would be the a-hole. But if they never accepted you and actively disrespected you and your family, then that would be toxic for everyone, including themselves. I'd bet that your ex is pushing them to do this to punish you, have free time, or both. I feel bad for them, but there's another point to consider. Now that you are divorced, you have no custodial rights or authority, so accepting that arrangement may expose you to some legal liabilities too. Distance is really the only choice. It's time for Dad's family and Biomom's family to step up. Agree OP is not the a-hole. This was developed by the ex. He wants to control you by continuing to have those two young girls in your life. I don't blame you, and good for you for sticking to your original answer. Ex wants a babysitter and someone to share the load of a teen and a preteen. Notice he didn't offer child support but wanted his two daughters 50-50 with OP. So babysitter and saves a lot of money. If he had wanted his daughters to be close to you, he should have been working with them over the previous 6 years and not now after the divorce, when he has to deal with them all the time. As for his relatives, ignore or block them.